car and you have your gun trained on a suspect and the suspect turns, it gives you that extra half second to see, is that a gun or is that a wallet? But in this set of circumstances, when these four police officers were closing the gap, probably to grab him, to have him ID himself, there was no cover in between. So there was no choice. They thought he was pulling a firearm and there was nowhere to go.
And then the fact about him being in that vestibule, the possibility of him going into that building where they could lose him in that building.
That's correct.
And that was why they had to react so fast.
I'm sure they would have much preferred to grab him before he went into the building, have him ID'd, maybe ask him a few questions. They would have been satisfied, fill out what we call a UF-250, a stop and frisk, and it would have been over.
How many times, you know, when we used to work in street crime, you know, when I first went in there in the street crime unit back in 1973, was the original start of the street crime. What we used to do is we used to go around, we'd take guns off the street. Matter of fact, these couple of cops, I believe, took a loaded gun off someone a couple of hours prior.
Look, you and I both know it. The primary objective of the street crime unit was to take guns off the street. We both did it, and I think the street crime unit largely attributed to the drop in crime the last number of years.
Rate.
They're aggressive, and they go out and they're not there to be run a popularity contest.
And they're looking for a rapist who has a gun.
When you're playing this deadly game out in the street in the middle of the night, and you're looking to take guns off the street, and you're looking to apprehend a violent serial rapist, anything can happen. And it did that night.
A terrible tragedy. The four police officers involved in this incident have not spoken since the trial. Using the words given in sworn testimony, we will attempt to uncover what happened on that night. We're going to watch again, this time from the point of view of each of these cops. First, Officer Kenneth Boss.
I became a New York City police officer because it was something I could do with honor, something I could be proud of. I've made over 100 felony arrests and misdemeanors, and arrests on top of that. The last time I checked, it was nearly 50 times that I was decorated. I was awarded Cop of the Month in December 1998. I was driving the car. I wasn't driving too fast. When you do that kind of work we do, you need to drive slow and be attentive. I was driving down the block Wheeler Avenue, and after some distance, Sean Carroll said, "Hold up, what's that guy doing back there?" I stopped the car and I put in reverse and backed up. I backed up, I say, maybe 75, 100 feet. It wasn't a great distance. When I backed up, I was able to see from the passenger side window a person standing on the steps. I backed up, I stopped the car. At that time, Sean Carroll and Ed McMillan both got out of the car on the passenger side. I don't know if it was Sean or Ed, but I heard two separate times, "Police, can I have a word?" After they identified themselves and they were, walking up, that's when I seen who I now know to be Mr. Diallo. He turned abruptly and darted back into the vestibule.
Now let's hear from Officer Sean Carroll.
On that night that we turned onto Wheeler Avenue, I looked to my right, I looked down the block a little bit. I noticed an individual, and it appeared he was looking up and down the block, peeking his head out. So we start backing up slowly as the individual looks over, and he's watching us. So we stopped the car, and he was still standing there. I'm pretty amazed that the individual's still standing there. I'm like, all right, something's going on here. I don't know what's going on, but, let's check this out. So Officer McMillan and I exited the vehicle, and Officer McMillan, he always had his shield out. He held it in one hand, and he said at that point, "Sir, police, City of New York, can we have a word with you?" It was at that point the individual starts slowly walking backwards, and reaching into his right hand into his right side. And now I'm a bit leery. From day one at the academy, they always taught us that watching an individual's hands is paramount for an officer's safety. I could see his left hand because at that point it touched the doorknob, and his right hand was constantly digging on his right side. He's frantically trying to get through that door, looking at us, and I'm saying, "Police, show me your hands, show me your hands." He never said a word.
Now we pick it up with Officer Ed McMillan.
I hold up my shield in my left hand, which I always do, and I have a phrase that I always use. Police Department, City of New York, can I have a word with you, please? And I gestured with my right hand for Mr. Diallo to come over to us. And it was a dimly lit area, and I wanted to bring him out on the street. And that way I could see his hands. And it's important for us to see someone's hands because that's where any threat is going to be. And I could hear Sean to the left of me say something to the effect of, "Police, can I have a word with you?" And so I yelled, "Police, don't move." And I began to move closer toward him, and he frantically tried to pull something from his right side, and I couldn't see his hands. I mean, he turned completely with his back facing to us, and so I ran to the steps, and then I took, two quick steps to the top.
The intensity is building for these officers. Things start to happen fast. Listen to Sean Carroll.
He turned and looked at us, and his left hand was still on the doorknob. And he starts the blacked object from his right hand, and as he pulled out the object, all I could see was the top of what looked like the slide of a black gun. My prior experience in training, my prior arrest dictated to me that this person was pulling a gun. At that point, I just said, "Gun, he's got a gun." He started to pull out the object. I turned his left shoulder facing us. It appeared to me that he was pulling a weapon up. He had drawn a weapon on my partner, and at that point, believing that he had just pulled and was about to fire a gun at my partner, I fired my weapon. Before I fired my weapon, Edward Mellon, who was closer than I was, said, he said, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" I just thought he pulled and drew a weapon on my partner, and I fired my weapon, and then Officer McMillan, Eddie, immediately flew past me on my left side. And it appeared to me like he was shot. And just like he got shot, and that force of the shot blew him out the door. And then he went past me, and I looked, and I could see Eddie, who had quickly passed my left side. I see Officer McMillan falling. I just go right to the top of the stoop. And the noise was incredibly loud. It was almost like a cannon shot going off, and there was flashing. And it appeared to me that there was